Hello, and welcome to Who's in the Pew? I'm Melissa Pici, editor of La Fe magazine. This show is an extension of La Fe and a production of We Hope, which is run by the Diocese of Laredo's Communication Department. Each week, we will get to know someone new and learn a little bit about his or her unique involvement in our diocese. Join us right here to meet your neighbor, the young adult seeking God's guidance in his life, the woman who spends much of her free time volunteering to serve at her parish, the man who returned to his faith after years of rejecting God, the young woman who teaches teens about the merciful love of Christ, the widow who was carried by God when waking up to face another day seemed too difficult, and some of our clergy who have answered a special call to follow and serve our Lord. We hope you will enjoy meeting others who sit in the pews of parishes right here in the Diocese of Laredo. Hi, and welcome to Who's in the Pew. I'm Melissa Pici, editor of La Fe magazine, and this show is an extension of what we bring you in La Fe. In our current issue, we featured Deacon Jerry, who is our very special guest, our first guest of this show, and who sits right across from me. Deacon Gutierrez is a transitional deacon and Nuestra Señora del Rosario. Welcome, Deacon.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. So we would like to share, to start off, can you just tell our audience what's the difference between a transitional deacon and a permanent deacon?
A permanent deacon is someone who comes into the call after marriage, and there has to be some parts of his life kind of already set. So he has to be married, he has to have kids, and there is an age limit. That way his ministry doesn't disrupt his family life. So that's what the permanent deacon is focused on: family life, on the sacraments, on the parish community. And for a transitional deacon, because we are on the road or on the journey to become priest, to be ordained priest, we are basically in the parish as a little bit like a little priest, a mini priest, just in training and kind of being the shadow of the pastor. And the pastor is really much there to guide us and to be a mentor for us and how to be a good faith leader in the church, and especially in a community where there might be many difficulties, whether it be financial, whether it be young families or older families, depending on the demographics of the parish. And so those are some of the things that we as transitional deacons kind of learn, and which is very interesting because depending on who's your mentor, you get a lot or you get what is necessary for you. You never get the minimum. You always get basically a handful. So it's ministry, 110%. And so that's what transitional and permanent deacon is.
That's great. So this is one step closer to becoming a priest, God willing.
Correct.
Being ordained as a priest. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Deacon Jerry, I'd like to share with our audience just a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and I'd actually like to start with what's in front of us. So when we were setting up this show, you shared with me that you are not a fan of pan dulce.
Yeah.
Okay, is that going a bit too far? Maybe
I prefer. Yeah.
You prefer old-fashioned donuts.
Right. And an old-fashioned donut is basically just a donut with no glaze, no toppings, no nothing, just kind of the dough. And that's one of my favorites to just munch on half with a coffee or tea or whatever. The pan dulce is great, but I didn't grow up with it. For me, it was just more about having it during the holiday season and a cold day, and that was the extent of it. Here is like a year-round thing, an everyday thing, and it's like you can have it for breakfast, you can have it for a merienda, and right. I honestly didn't grow up with that. it was donuts, some pan dulces. Sometimes my grandfather, but like I said, it's only in the winter that we really would go down to town, and it's mostly conchas that we would have. What I really discovered my liking was the little cuernitos, and here in South Laredo was the empanadas, pumpkin calabaza, yeah. And so I really enjoyed those. So when the ladies at the parish, they have different socials and different things, or the men, and they have those. I'll go and pick at those. But today, I'm happy that you brought like something that is just plain and boring. I'm not plain, I'm boring, but
Yes, and it's so the old fashioned donut was something new to me when you mentioned it. I never heard of it. So I went and attempted to order you an old fashioned. This was the closest I could get. So it's a shell, is what I was told. So nothing inside of it. It's plain. So hopefully it's to your liking.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure it will. Yeah. Usually Dunkin' Donuts carries them. FYI.
Good to know. Next time I will be sure to stop by Dunkin' Donuts. But you mentioned you like old fashioned donut because that's what you grew up around, because you grew up north. So can you tell us, where exactly you grew up and just a little bit about your family?
Sure, definitely. Well, I was born in Cuernavaca, Mexico. And then at the age of 4, my family moved to New Jersey. And so I haven't been able to go back to Mexico. And so the only thing I've known is like just the north, and basically what we call the tri-state area, right? New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and so those are basically home for me. And growing up over there, it was the culture of the Italians who used to be in the neighborhood, especially the Sicilian community. But then trying to see how the neighborhood also changed with the migration of Latinos, especially the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans, and now even the Colombians, the Salvadorians, the Peruvians, and all this massive influx of Latino culture that really makes the city of Patterson a really melting pot of South American culture. So basically, that's how I grew up. For me, it was very much a melting pot of different cultures, and of course, not to count the fact that there are a lot of Middle Eastern communities there as well in the city of Patterson. Oh. We have the whole South Side dedicated, or at least that's what they have dedicated as a Middle Eastern section. So my parents live actually in a section that is predominantly Colombian. So if you turn the street and there's a Colombian restaurant, panaderia, and everything else in there, and so it's pretty interesting. And then if you travel a little bit further down, there's the Peruvian sector, and it's all kind of delicious food and everything that you can think of. So growing up, it's a palette of different cultures, different foods, and so when I come here and it's like just tacos. But no, I mean, honestly, I found that food here has different flavors too, because you have the ones from Monterrey, and you have the ones from Nuevo Laredo, and you have the ones from Tex-Mex. And so you get all those different kind of flavors, and I'm just enjoying it. I hope I don't gain more weight.
It's hard not to.
Yes. Well, I was just telling somebody, for every 100 calories is 20 minutes on the treadmill. And I think for me, I'm just going to live my life.
Not worry about.
Yeah, no, a friend of mine actually said it. It's in Spanish. Yo prefiero ser un gordito feliz que un flaco amargado, which is fairly translated. I'd rather be a happy, chubby person than an unhappy, skinny person. Yeah, and so basically, a little bit of my background. That's basically where I grew up. I was raised I wasn't raised, but I was educated by the Salesians. So grammar school was the Salesian Sisters, and my parish was the Salesian Brothers and Fathers, and then high school was the Salesian Fathers and Brothers, and then post college, I still maintain a very good relationship with them. So Yeah, that was weird that I ended up on the diocese side. Everybody was expecting either for me to join a religious community or the Salesians, but education was a foundational aspect of my faith and then my family as well. So everything, growing up, coming from New Jersey, being here, and the different experiences have made me like this kind of cookie person because I like a lot, and so in liking a lot, sometimes you can come off as like, I guess a little bit spoiled. I'm not spoiled. I honestly
to clarify.
Yeah. No, definitely not spoiled. But it is an aspect of I like different things, and what the things that I do like, I kind of have my preferences for.
Well, and so you touched on the Salesians and your family really helped to shape, and I know that's something that we've discussed previously is they help to kind of helped you in the discernment process for choosing a vocation to the priesthood.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you come from a large family, right?
I do, yes. My dad comes from like 15 brothers and sisters, my mother from 12 brothers and sisters, and each one has like 3+ kids. And so it is a very extended, very large family. And then my dad, of course, his lineage, aunts, uncles, cousins is fairly large, and my mother is as well. Unfortunately, because of the moving, we're disconnected from that type of families. But at least his brothers and sisters and my cousins, we really did grow up very much together. And so, in growing up together, being at a Salesian school was always, or parish, it was always part of the growing up that they always saw different family dynamics. And so, the priest kind of went by and you'll be good. It's like you might have a vocation, and that's the way that I think they saw me. And so one young priest who was in the parish, after Mass, or no, it was before Mass. Yeah, before Mass, he was vesting. All the altar servers were waiting, and then for some reason he turned around to us and said, "Hey, one of these days, maybe you guys can do what I did." And everything trickled from there. And it wasn't until high school that they really spoke about vocation, and they really spoke about discernment and what it meant for a young man to give up his life for Jesus, right? For God. And so that sparked something in me, and
you planted that seed.
Yeah, no, I remember from back in the day, maybe one day, and so that kind of just stuck. Well, what does that mean? And so high school was the kind of the spark that ignited that little flame that was left there. And one day you can do this, and so what does that mean? And so that's when they spoke about discernment. And the Salesians are very good about putting the seed, letting it water, and then
that's great.
Yeah, no. So.
And along those lines, you had mentioned, you had told me, so when you first went to your parents, you told them that you were discerning becoming a priest. They asked you to wait for a while, and you were obedient to that. So what did that look like, and what was their reasoning?
Mom and Dad just wanted me to have a little bit more of a life experience. I've always been I've always been a house, a stay-at-home kid. Always with the mom and dad. So they wanted me to have a little bit more of a life experience, college, dating, work. And they said, because that's going to help you either be a great person or be a great priest. And so having those experiences. And so I did. After high school, I got a job. I took part-time schooling in the community college, and where I did well in my classes. I'm not the smart. I always said I'm not the smartest kid in the room. I know that, but I do take the time to be a productive student, and so at least in that I always gave 100%. I always felt that my grades maybe didn't show that, but at least I knew in my whole being that I was doing 100% of what I needed to do in order for me to get at least the B that I was getting, right? And I'm not saying that I'm a C or D, but no, but at least C's get degrees, but not really. Not for me, not for me. But no, education is very important to my family. It has always been. And I think that's one of the reasons that they wanted to educate us in a Catholic school, because they knew that education in a public school, especially during those times, was going to be something that will hold us back. And so education in those times in a Catholic school was something that was able to give us an edge on education, on life. I mean, to this day, my mom and dad sometimes asks my younger brother and I, how come you guys are into this, or why do you? And I was like, because you paid good money for us to be exposed to all of this culture, life, theater, art. I mean, if it wasn't for my Catholic background and my education in it, I don't think I would know a lot of what I do. Seeing some of my friends, within the neighborhood, and so for me, Catholic education was kind of the spring up.
Wow, that's great. And that was a sacrifice for your parents, wasn't it?
It was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dad at that time worked nights. He worked for a company making shower curtains, and so Mom was she actually worked for Fuddruckers. She was a bus girl or waitress.
Wow.
So yeah, back in those days, that's what she did. And then what she did after that, she wanted to get educated, and so she took some night classes, and she got her GED, and she went and got her license in cosmetology back in the early 90s. So now, she was doing nails back then. She was doing hair, everything. And now I heard that everything is like barber. It's one license, cosmetology is one license, nails is another license. And she's able to do everything with that. So education, like I said, it's very important for my family. And I think that's one of the reasons that they encourage me to be well-rounded and not just go directly. They wanted a little bit more exposure of life, and I think that's the mentality that they paid all the money during school. That way, we would become these well-rounded individuals.
Yes, yeah, that's wonderful. And then when you went back to your parents, you went ahead, you went to college, experienced that. You still obviously felt called to become a priest, and so you went back to them and told them, and they were fully supportive, right, at that point.
Exactly. I mean, there are times they still say, "Are you sure?" But now, I'm a deacon, and so they don't say, "Are you sure?" They just say, "Oh, we still would have liked, grandchildren." I was like, well, not anymore. But no, they're very supportive. My two brothers, my older brother and then my younger brother, are awesome. They're very supportive. And they are there for me whenever I need them. So there are times that I just needed to chat or vent or, talk in private, and they're there, I know, to listen. And, Mom and Dad, they get worried. So I try not to give them too much. But it is an aspect of, now they know that it is God who's calling me, right? It is God who has planted this seed in my heart and has said, "Come, follow me. Leave everything. Follow me." Right. And so me, like the Fishers, did leave everything. Mom, dad, family, miles and miles away, and came to Laredo, Texas.
Yes.
Because all my family is up north.
They're still up north.
Yeah, I'm the only one crazy enough to be on the other side of the state.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah.
And so how did you end up in Laredo from New Jersey? How did that all happen?
As I had mentioned, I entered the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate first in their formation program. And I studied my philosophy years with them. And I was trying to live in the community, trying to see if God was calling me to a community.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up with the Salesians, I always saw them, praying together and being together. And so when it came to me just trying to decide diocese, religious life, I went with the religious life. And then I found that maybe not so much for me. And so I basically decided, okay, I still want to be a priest. I still want to be a missionary, but I want to be a missionary here in the States. And so then I found great people that I was talking to and mentors. And so Miss Lucy Cardenas was one of them. And so
she was the chancellor of the Diocese of Laredo at the time.
Correct.
The late.
And so or I think she was just leaving or she had just left.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about that. And so, but I know she was the ex-chancellor, but at least she was able to guide me. And she would always say, let's pray about it. And I always didn't like that answer about Miss Lucy because everything was let's pray about it.
Pray and wait.
Yeah. And it was
I want to know now.
I want to know now. And so it was great that she allowed me to also see that part of the discernment process, right? That there has to be this period of waiting. There has to be this period of prayer and connection with where God wants you to go. So that's how I ended up here with an invitation of her, and then of course Father Quiroz accepting my or extending an invitation for me to come here and live at Casa Guadalupe, which is the house of discernment for young men to kind of see what the diocese is like, and then the diocese to also get to know us, those that are not from the diocese. And so it kind of worked out. Towards the middle end of the semester, Father said, well, Bishop and I have been thinking, and yeah, we'd like to send you to the seminary. You look like a good prospect. And so, yeah, I was sent to the seminary in San Antonio, Texas.
Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you were staying at Casa Guadalupe,
mm-hmm.
I actually don't know this. Do you still work, or you're full-time devoted to helping at a parish and discernment?
Correct.
In different ways?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
But those young men who do not have a degree yet, they start their classes there.
Okay.
So they go to the community college at LC, and they'll have some of the basics: English, math, history. That way they can transfer to later on to a 4-year university, and then they can continue their education there, because it is 4 years of philosophy, 4 years of theology. And so, but for me, because I finished my philosophical studies and my degree in Buffalo, New York, when I came here, I didn't have to study, and I knew English already, so I didn't have to go to special school for English. But I was able to help at a parish, help at the chancery, help drive some of the guys to their school, because also I had a license, they didn't, and so it was kind of an overall kind of different experience for me, which is fine. And that's where I met Monsignor Alex and Christopher Martinez, who welcomed me into the parish and to the CCD program, where I started teaching.
Wow. And I know you mentioned that, and we highlighted that in the article in La Fe, but you said you've just been blessed to have great mentors throughout your life. As a kid, growing up, the Salesians, and then here in the Diocese of Laredo too, Monsignor Alex and others who, through the discernment process and kind of every step of the way, you've just been blessed with that, right?
Yes. No. To reach a point where I'm at, or a point where ordination is upon me, you can't do it. You can't say you've done this by yourself. And so I look at my life and my journey as I've been blessed with all these great mentors, men, women, who have given me so much of their spirituality, of their advice, of their commitment to me continuing, that, it's sometimes it's like a humbling experience, because hopefully one day, maybe that'd be me, with a young person that wants to pursue, whether it be a vocation in religious life or the priesthood, but also in whatever career. And so, because I am well-rounded,
You can help guide people in different...
Exactly. And I can guide people in different ways. I mean, I was editor-in-chief of a newspaper, so I know a little bit about journalism. And I did retail for several years. I did tax prep for a few years, a salesperson for Nextel Communications. So I've done a little bit of everything. So
with tax season coming up, you're going to be helping people to...
Not anymore. I don't think I'm brave enough to do that anymore. No, when you're young and you're just, you know what? Yeah, 1040 easy. Let's go for it. Now 1040 easy. I'm even afraid of that one.
You find somebody else to.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, one thing that I find very interesting is some of the just daily, I don't know if you want to call them struggles, but just things that we're presented with. It can be hard sometimes in the craziness of life, just the busyness of life, to find time to pray. I think most people can relate to that, in different walks of their life. But it's not something that I personally had ever thought, like our deacons, transitional deacons, even, seminarians, priests, I kind of thought like, they have that down, that's not a struggle for them. But I know you mentioned to me, things can get busy for you too. And so you kind of have to remind yourself, right, to let's set aside that time, having that scheduled time. Can you just share, a little bit about how you make sure, that your days are centered, around prayer and start off the right way?
Of course. Especially us that were already ordained, right? Ordained ministers, deacons, and priests. We take a promise to pray for the faithful, and so it has to be faithfully done. And so, for me, I do have to schedule it, unfortunately, but it is not rigid enough that if there's an appointment, if there's somebody that comes in or somebody, there are other ways that you can push them through. There have been times that I'm doing my midday prayer together with my evening prayer because I just couldn't do it. There was an aspect of well, this came up or that came up, and so it's okay. God, I don't think God is going to get angry with me if I take care of this person or this thing right now that needs to be taken care of, and then me catch up with my prayers later on. But it is a scheduling thing. It is you have to almost discipline yourself that as soon as you wake up, you have to do your morning prayer. You have to do your Lectio Divina. You have to read the Gospel of the day. That's one of the struggles for me as a transitional deacon, or even as a deacon, because I participate on the liturgy every day. And I read the Gospel every day. I have to make sure, especially in Spanish, it's a priest that is with me. He was like, "Deacon, it's so interesting. Your Spanish, when you speak it, is great, but when you're reading it, it's so good." And so that's one of the things that I found very interesting that he paid attention to. So I know that my reading is not so good either. I don't remember how to use that one. Anyways, so
either. It works either way.
And so I have to practice the gospel at least a few times. There are some words that I still can't either pronounce or don't know quite a bit, and so as I'm reading it, I get tongue-tied and okay, this is what it is. And so it's kind of funny, but no, I think it's all about discipline and getting yourself, okay, in the morning I'm gonna do my morning prayer, I'm gonna read the gospel. If I have time for Lectio Divina and to see where God is in all of this, in my day today, that's good, because I also do even in night prayer, and in night prayer I do what is called examine, where you think about your day and you go step by step and you say, okay, well, where God was in all of this. And so it takes time. I'm not very faithful. It is a struggle, right? It is like I said, discipline. So you have to say, well, I have to do it at this time. I have to do it at that time, or at least, once I'm back in my room, I say, okay, before I get comfortable, I have to do this. So I make sure, like last night, after teaching a confirmation class from 8 to 9, I got home from being in the office. From 3 on, I didn't have dinner. So I just ate something really quick, went to my room, and the first thing was, night prayer and where God was in my day. Because I know that once I get comfortable, I turn on my TV, I watch something and wind down. And so then I'm tired and I know I won't do it. So it is very much about discipline and trying to keep it focused that you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for the people of God too. One of the things that I've pride myself in always keeping focus is you can't give people what you yourself don't have. Right. So if you don't have a prayer life, if you don't have a good relationship with Jesus, then
how are you going to help others grow in their relationship? Yeah. You have to be spiritually fed.
Correct.
Well, that's great. It's great to hear because it just what you said, discipline. I mean, that's something that everyone just has to have, and I know that the life at a parish, I know your life, you have a lot of duties, a lot of responsibilities. And so it would make sense that, you schedule that in and you cut out time for that and to make that a priority, make sure that you are spiritually nourished.
Correct.
Well, Deacon, is there anything else you would like to share with our guests as we wrap this up today?
Not out of free will. Do you have anything?
Well, I wanted to wrap up with a little, kind of a little game.
Okay.
Just to learn some fun facts about you.
Sure. All
okay.
Right.
So I will throw out 2 different words, 2 different things, for lack of a better word, and you tell me which you prefer.
Okay.
What's your favorite? Okay. So Whataburger or Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. Winter or summer?
Winter.
Yeah, you're used to that up north, huh? St. Teresa of Calcutta or St. Therese of Lisieux?
Calcutta.
KHOY or Big Buck Country?
KHOY, of course.
Good answer. That one was kind of to see if you were
let me see.
try and trip you up there. Well, we're so glad that you joined us today, and we hope to bring more of Who's in the Pew to you so you can learn about people throughout the Diocese of Laredo and learn about the ministries in the Diocese of Laredo, our parishes and what they're doing, and so you can get involved too. But thank you so much, Deacon Jerry.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me here. It's been a great experience. Hopefully.
It has.
Thank you.